Today, we're installing a limited slip diff in our low buck sport truck so we can finally get out on the road and see just how well this project turned out. Then we're adding something our 1955 F100 never had, power windows. It's all today here on Truck Tech.
Hey guys, welcome to Truck Tech. Well, our low buck sport truck here is this close to being ready to take it out and flog it and see if all the work and time that we put into this truck with all the great upgrades, the underpinnings, the 383 fuel-injected stroker, if everything matches the way this thing looks, which I gotta say is pretty smoking. Everything's shiny, polished up, and, well, almost everything. These guys, well, they're legal, barely, and they're functional, barely, but the lens is all chalky, the backup light is yellowed, and frankly, it just doesn't match the rest of the appearance of the truck. So we can do better, and thanks to LMC Truck, we're going to show you how.
Now, our 93 Chevy has turned into quite the little hot rod. It's got a fuel-injected 383, a built transmission, 373 rear gears, it's been lowered, and it's sitting on decent rubber, making you think that it's a well-rounded performance vehicle. But when we mat the accelerator, well, the right rear tire is going to spin while the left rear tire just sits there. Not exactly high performance. So today we're going to fix that and turn our one-wheel wonder into a two-tire fryer with the help of a limited slip differential that we picked up from Summit Racing. This Auburn Gear High Performance Series differential replaces the factory-installed open differential. It's got a cone clutch design that is said to outperform traditional plate-style clutches. Now, this will allow both rear tires to turn independently of each other going around a corner, but during hard launches and aggressive driving, both rear tires will receive power. Now, we also picked up a couple of diff bearings so we can complete the install. All right, now to demonstrate the open diff in this truck, we don't even have to go outside and do a big smoky burnout and waste a bunch of good rubber. A little bit of water on our concrete shop floor will show that all the power is going to get pumped through one wheel as soon as it loses traction. There we go. So with the truck up on the lift, well, we can get to work replacing the open differential, removing the diff cover, letting all the gear oil drain out, and rotating the differential around so we can get access to the pinion shaft retaining bolt. And with the bolt out of the way, we can slide out the pinion shaft or cross pin. Now, before we go any further, we're going to measure the backlash between the ring gear and the pinion. Now, we measured it in 3 or 4 different spots around the ring gear and got an average reading of about 12 thousandths. Now, these are used gears, so you need to match up that number when installing the new differential. The C-clips out of the way, we can remove the axle shafts and the spider gears. Then we can remove the bearing caps, which are machined as an assembly, so they need to go back in the exact position they came out. A sharp center punch and a hammer put 2 marks on the bearing cap. Matching dots up here. Slight interference fit. Keep track of which shims came on which side. All right, now we've run the differential through the solvent tank, but we need to remove the ring gear before we scrap the carrier. Now, if you look at this open differential, well, you can see it's kind of thin and not very much material there in the casting, and it's why it's one of the weak links in the 10-bolt rear axle assembly. But this Auburn differential that we picked up from Summit has a lot more material in it, so it's going to eliminate that weak link along with sending power to both rear tires. Now, these ring gears sometimes act like they're pressed on. Even with all the bolts out, it's still difficult to remove. So a soft-faced hammer and a little bit of prying get the job done. Let me go clean this up. Never want to leave gear oil in these holes. They're blind holes and bolts won't tighten. Make sure it's good and flat so you don't get any ring gear run out. We're in good shape. All right, now we got the ring gear soaking in some hot water. Looks like we're at about 145 degrees or so. And that'll hopefully let the ring gear expand enough to slide over the carrier and into position. Now, just like you don't want to leave gear oil in the bolt holes, but you don't want to leave any water in there either. It doesn't compress and could cause corrosion on the bolt threads. Believe it or not, that's hot. Hopefully it's warm enough to slide over top. Look at that. Now here's our new ring gear bolts. It's always a good idea to replace them. These are left-hand thread bolts, and they've already got thread locker applied, so we're in good shape. Now you don't want to use the ring gear bolts to pull the gear into place. And when tightening them down, do it in a crisscross pattern. Torque wrench. Now for a torque spec, well, I found different numbers looking at different sources, but the manufacturer of the diff called for 80 foot-pounds, so that's what we went with. Then we pressed on the side bearings, using an old inner race to press on the bearing and not damage it. If you don't have a hydraulic press or access to one, well, you can just take the diff and the bearings to a machine shop and they'll press them on for you for a minimal charge. There's really not a whole lot to the job. After one final cleaning of the diff, we could reinstall it and check our backlash measurement. All right, with the carrier reinstalled, I gotta say we lucked out. The original shims in their original locations not only gave us good carrier bearing preload, but our backlash measurement of 12 thousandths matches up with our before measurement. We're in good shape.
Up next, our low buck sport truck finally hits the streets. Stay tuned.
Hey guys, welcome back to Truck Tech. Well, now that our limited slip differential is installed, we can take care of this one last minor detail, which is letting people know that we're going to stop. These lights are factory replacements from LMC Truck, which means that the factory hardware and the plugs all work. They go in seconds. Just because it's an easy job doesn't mean it's not an important job. Letting people know what your intentions are, whether it's stopping or turning, is vital, and it's very critical on the road. So, yes, it's a simple installation, but it's just as important. Now that's quite a difference. And it's not just the difference in the way it lets people know what we're going to do on the road. It also just really improves the look of this vehicle. Just a subtle little thing. It's all in the details. And since everything else is painted and fresh and new, it just makes sense to put new taillights in. There we go. Especially since they're pretty affordable from LMC Truck.
Now, our low buck sport truck has come a long way since we first dragged this thing back into the shop. It was a cheap pickup that we decided had some potential. These trucks are relatively plentiful and inexpensive, and it's a V8 rear-wheel drive platform, so you can't go wrong. Now, this thing did need a lot of work. One of the first things we did was lower it down. And for just a pretty basic lowering kit with some shocks on it, doesn't do too bad. I expected it to wallow a little bit more. Now, our 385 with multi-port fuel injection has been a huge improvement over the throttle body injected, worn out 350 that we started with. And it's a difference you can feel.
All right, so kick it into passing gear. That sets you back pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a heck of a lot better than what it was when we got it, and probably a lot better than what it was when it was bone stock. Feels good and solid.
Now, there's no two ways about it. When you're rebuilding and upgrading an entire truck, inclusive of a paint job and a drivetrain overhaul, you're going to spend some money. We call it the low buck sport truck because we try to take the paycheck by paycheck approach, similar to the way you would probably do it at home. But instead of spreading the build out over a couple of years, we condense it down to a couple of months. And we did drop about 15 grand in this thing, but we both think it's worth it. Hooks up pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah, it really does. It plants the power.
Well, yeah, it's not like scooting all over the road and you're not peg-legging it.
Yeah, you're not wasting rubber, you're accelerating.
Yep.
Now, the seat of the pants dyno tells me we're making between 350 and 400 horsepower. And it sounds good, too. Now, the wide 295 40 series tires on all four corners really help this truck handle and give it a sporty feel. And on that note, we'd call our low buck sport truck a success.
Got a couple of thumbs up. It looks good going down the road. You know, it wasn't a restoration job, it was just a paint job.
Yep.
But it just woke it up and brought it into this century.
And with the AC on in the middle of the summer, it's still running cool.
Yep. We like this.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Hey, welcome back to Truck Tech. If you're just catching up with us and you haven't seen this project before, it's our 1955 F100. And if you got a keen eye, you'll see that the top has been chopped, and it's been chopped well. The doors match. All the bodywork is done. This thing is rock solid. Sheet metal is really solid on it. We got it as an abandoned project where somebody done a ton of work on this thing, but left it unfinished for whatever reason. Pretty common scenario out in the industry, and we scored big time. Got this thing cheap. However, there's boxes of stuff somewhere for this truck that we have no idea where they are. So we're starting on our own to a great extent, and thanks to LMC Truck, we're going to invade their catalog to help us finish this truck. Starting with this universal power window kit that is kind of interesting. It's not like anything I've put in before because it utilizes your stock manual window regulator. Of course, all this stuff is brand new out of the catalog, including the guides and the regulators. Well, it's pretty self-explanatory what the regulators do. But here's the cool thing about this system. It's a cable-driven system like a lot of modern vehicles have, and with the different cogs that they supply in the system, it utilizes the splines on your manual roll-up studs. This fits in nice and flush and pokes through on the other side just a little bit, but your door trim panel will cover it up. So this is kind of a neat system. We just got to build it as we go, then bolt it in, test it out. There are dozens of combinations of cogs and adapters, so if you take your time and kind of do a little bit of trial and error, you will find out the combination that works best for your particular vehicle. Now, if you're thinking that these nylon cogs can get a little bit weak, well, think about it like this. It's nylon against nylon, the splines match perfectly, and there's only one point of contact with steel. There's not a whole lot of pressure on that. Everything else is cable-driven with an electric motor that matches. Everything is designed to work together as one system, so it's actually pretty strong. Now, once you've got your combination of cogs and splines figured out for your particular door window application and your regulator, well, you got to hold it in place. It comes with a circlip that just slips down over the main adapter. Just like that. Next, a flat washer and a self-tapping screw hold the internal adapter in place. That won't fall apart inside the door. You wouldn't grab the top edge of that, would you? Now, sometimes an extra set of hands is a really nice thing to have in the shop. Because one wrong move in this glass, if it drops to the bottom of the door, well, you could break it, and then where are you? So after finagling it around inside the door, and yes, that is a word, you get it up inside the channel runs and up into the actual window frame over top of the body of the door. Hey, I can see. The goal is to get the window into place in the channel runs while you can still get the regulator in, because doing the opposite, trying to put the window in with the regulator in place, is most times impossible and very frustrating. You are working with a brand new, fresh piece of glass here, and you just have to take some time. All right, I'll hold it. Then we're going to use a really trick tool that we got from the Matco tool catalog that will hold the window up into place. Very simple, with suction cups and a plastic-coated cable. Thank you. The window channel guides, like everything else in this project, came from LMC Truck, and they just go right back into place that the originals once inhabited. We dug through our industrial depot bins and came up with some button head fasteners that matched the pitch that we needed and look pretty good holding this stuff in place, at least temporarily. One thing that's very important to remember when you're installing regulators in any vehicle is to exercise your Zen meditation. Breathe deep and don't get in a hurry. You'll skin your knuckles and your blood pressure will go up, but just remember that it came out of here, so there's a way to put it back in. All right, now, one of the cool things about this kit is that the fact that it's cable driven, it allows you to place the motor pretty much anywhere you want it. So we can tuck it neatly up in here, so I'll have exposure to our wires, or I can put it over here, put it against this panel. Regardless, universal is not a bad thing sometimes. It just gives you options. Hey guys, welcome back to Truck Tech. We're showing you how to update an old vintage F100 pickup with a modern power window system. Okay, the glass is in place and everything's mocked up. Mocked up because we're nowhere near the stage we need to be to actually install this window system and the lifts and the switches. So we're going to use our power probe to energize the motor and test the action of the track up and down. I like the hook. Got power. Step one is, of course, to find a 12-volt power source for the power probe unit itself. In our case, it's our Matco battery box. Then it's simply a matter of changing the polarity until you find the direction that you want your window lift to go in. In our case, we want it to come down first. There it comes. Yep. Now, with it down, since we're mocking up, I'm going to put some tapes across the bottom of the guide and the window so it doesn't lose it in the door and break it. With the lift pushing the window up into the channel, while gravity is on our side. But with it coming down, there's a chance that, like I said, it could disconnect, and you want the piece of tape to hold it in place. Another function of the tape is that it can slide fore and aft and center itself, locate the glass in the guide perfectly. Now, with the moment of truth at hand, we simply reverse the polarity with the power probe and lift it up. There we go. Coolness. Well, thanks to LMZ Truck, we now have power windows in a 1955 Ford F100. And thanks to our handy-dandy power probe, now we don't have to wire the entire vehicle to test out this system. So we're just going to wait for the rest of the truck to catch up with this project. But it's going to be cool.
Now, chances are, if you're watching this show, you've got a truck, SUV, or a Jeep, whether it's stock or lifted. Well, if you're in the market for some shocks or some steering stabilizers, Rancho's got you covered. These are Rancho RS 7000 MT steering stabilizers. The shocks are RS 7000 MTs as well and happen to be for a Jeep JK Wrangler with a 4-inch lift kit. The steering stabilizer bracket kit is for a JK as well. Now, the stabilizers and shocks are a monotube design with a high-pressure nitrogen gas charge. The shock body is brushed, zinc-plated, and clear-coated for a long-lasting finish, and they've got 10-stage velocity-sensitive valving. Another part for JKs is these ACOs, or adjustable coilover spacers, from JKS. They'll give you between 1 and 3.5 inches of lift to clear larger tires, or if you need to compensate for spring sag once you've added a heavy front bumper or winch. Adjustments are as simple as turning the spring seat on the threaded collar to dial in the ride height that you're after. Just do it with the suspension at full droop. They also feature durethane bump stops and isolators to eliminate noise transfer. Plus, they're good-looking parts to add to the front of your JK, and they can eliminate the need to buy other coil springs to accommodate future modifications. Now, if you're looking for exhaust parts for your JK, well, check out Gibson Performance. This is their 2.5-inch catback system that's black ceramic coated and has dual outlets at both rear corners of the vehicle and 4-inch tips. They also offer an uncoated stainless steel system. This is a single outlet straight out of the back. And both of these catback systems are 2.5-inch mandrel bent tubing designed to be a bolt-on, hassle-free installation, and they build power between idle and 3,000 RPM where Jeeps need it the most. Gibson also has 50 state-legal stainless steel and ceramic coated headers if you're trying to maximize the power potential of your V6. All these exhaust parts come with a lifetime warranty. Guys, thanks for watching Truck Tech. See you next time.